Hello guys, and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video I am going to explain the producer-consumer pattern in embedded firmware. In this architecture, one software component produces data, while another component processes or consumes that data. The producer may be a sensor driver, interrupt service routine, communication peripheral, or periodic task. Instead of directly executing complex processing, it places the generated data into a queue or ring buffer. The consumer retrieves the data later and performs actions such as filtering, logging, control calculations, or communication. This separation allows the producer and consumer to operate at different speeds. It also improves responsiveness, reduces blocking, and creates a more predictable and scalable embedded firmware architecture. Without buffering, an interrupt service routine may capture data and immediately perform parsing, filtering, logging, or communication. This makes the interrupt longer and can block other interrupts or important tasks. During bursty input, new events may be missed, overwritten, or delayed. Execution time also becomes unpredictable, creating latency and jitter. The producer-consumer pattern solves this by keeping the producer fast. The interrupt captures only the necessary data and places it into a buffer. A consumer task processes the data later at a controlled rate. This decoupling shortens interrupt execution, absorbs temporary bursts, improves system responsiveness, and separates data acquisition from processing logic. The buffer between the producer and consumer is commonly implemented as a queue or circular ring buffer. A ring buffer uses a fixed size array. The producer writes data at the head position, while the consumer reads data from the tail position. After reaching the final array location, each index wraps back to 0. Data normally follows first in, first out behavior, meaning the oldest stored item is processed first. When the head and tail are equal, the buffer is usually empty. When advancing, the head would reach the tail, the buffer is considered full. Ring buffers are especially useful in embedded firmware because they use fixed memory, avoid dynamic allocation, and provide predictable execution time. A common embedded implementation uses an interrupt service routine as the producer and the foreground task as the consumer. For example, when a UART byte arrives, the UART interrupt reads the received byte and immediately pushes it into a ring buffer. The interrupt may then notify a task and exit. The consumer task later removes bytes from the buffer, validates packets, calculates checksums, and processes commands. The same method applies to ADC samples, SPI transfers, timer events, or CAN messages. The key rule is to keep the interrupt short. Avoid printing, delays, dynamic memory, long loops, and complex calculations inside an ISR. Capture the data, store it safely, notify the task, and return quickly. In an RTOS-based system, producers and consumers normally communicate through operating system queues. For example, a sensor task can periodically read temperature data, package the reading with a timestamp, and send it to a free RTOS queue. A logger task can block while waiting for new samples and write them to an SD card when they arrive. Another consumer task may receive the same type of information and update a display or control algorithm. Interrupts must use ISR safe functions such as XQ, send from ISR. Task notifications can also wake a high priority consumer immediately. RTOS queues provide thread safety, blocking operations, predictable communication, and clear separation between tasks with different responsibilities. The producer-consumer pattern appears in many real embedded applications. In a UART receiver, the interrupt produces individual bytes, a ring buffer stores them, and a packet parser consumes complete messages. In a sensor system, a timer or ADC produces periodic samples. A queue stores these readings, while a control task filters the values and calculates an actuator output. For CAN or SPI communication, received frames can be placed into a message queue and consumed by a logger, protocol stack, or communication task. Ring buffers are normally preferred for continuous byte streams. RTOS queues are often better for complete structures or discrete messages. Both methods separate fast data reception from slower application-level processing. Correct buffer sizing depends on the producer rate, consumer rate, and maximum expected burst. When the producer temporarily creates data faster than the consumer processes it, the queue depth increases. When the consumer becomes faster, the stored data is gradually removed. The consumer must keep up with the average producer rate. Otherwise, the queue will continue growing until it overflows. The buffer should be large enough to hold the worst-case burst, timing jitter, and an additional safety margin. However, a larger buffer uses more memory and may increase latency because data waits longer before processing. A smaller buffer reduces memory and latency but increases overflow risk. Buffer size must balance memory, latency, throughput, and reliability. Overflow occurs when the producer attempts to add data while the queue is already full. The firmware must define a clear overflow strategy. It may discard the oldest item, reject the newest item, set an error flag, temporarily stop the producer, or increase the buffer capacity. Underflow happens when the consumer requests data from an empty queue. The consumer may wait, retry later, use the previous value, return a safe default, or report an error. Back pressure reduces the producer rate before overflow occurs. Examples include UART, RTS, and CTS flow control, reducing the sensor sampling frequency, processing data in batches, or temporarily throttling a producer task. Overflow and underflow behavior must always be designed intentionally. Because the producer and consumer share the same buffer, synchronization must prevent race conditions and corrupted data. In a single producer, single consumer ring buffer, the producer owns the head index and the consumer owns the tail index. This design can often operate without a mutex when index reads and writes are atomic. However, data must be written before the producer updates the head. Similarly, the consumer must confirm that data is available before reading it. Memory barriers may be required on some processors to enforce this ordering. Critical sections should be short and used only when necessary. Mutexes are generally unsuitable inside interrupt service routines because they may block. ISR communication should use atomic operations, lock-free buffers, or RTOS ISR safe APs. A reliable producer-consumer implementation should expose useful runtime information. Monitor the current queue depth, average depth, and highest recorded level. Count every overflow and underflow event instead of silently ignoring data loss. Test the system with worst-case bursts, back-to-back interrupts, slow storage, communication delays, and temporary CPU overload. Measure interrupt duration, consumer execution time, end-to-end latency, and jitter. Tools such as logic analyzers, ITM, SWO, RTOS trace utilities, and timestamped logs can reveal timing problems. Keep the producer minimal, size the buffer with a safety margin, and make the overflow policy explicit. The main takeaway is simple. Decouple fast data capture from slower processing to create responsive and predictable firmware. Thanks for watching this video, guys. Please share, like, and comment below. Also subscribe to my YouTube channel for more videos.